The living room was lit by a single floor lamp at 2:17 in the morning. I pressed the power button on my phone, and the screen went dark. The memory card from the dashcam was clenched in my palm, the plastic edges digging into the lines of my skin. From the entryway came the sound of a key sliding into the lock, so faint I could barely hear it. He tiptoed as he changed his shoes, his shadows stretched thin and long by the lamplight, until he looked up and met my eyes. "You're still awake?"
His voice was shaking.
I set the memory card down on the coffee table. I didn't look at his face anymore. I just watched the second hand on the wall clock crawl forward one tick at a time. How could I be asleep when I saw your car in the Jinjiang hotel parking lot, parked there for 4 hours and 7 minutes?
01.
My name is Li Xiaodong. I'm 29 years old. I've been married for 3 years. My husband Wang Ziyuan is 2 years older than me. He works as a sales director at a medical equipment company. Lots of business dinners, late nights home, it was normal. I never used to check up on him. His phone passcode was his birthday. He let me look through his WeChat anytime. Even the lipstick stains that occasionally showed up on the passenger seat, he could explain those away as giving a female colleague a ride to the subway station. I believed every word. Until 3 months ago. He started working late constantly. Before, when he'd say, "Dinner meeting tonight," he'd send me his location, snap a photo of the table full of drinks, ask what I wanted him to bring home for a late-night snack. Then it turned into a cold, mechanical working late, back late. Not even a period at the end. I went from full-hearted worry to stomach-churning suspicion, and from suspicion to a dull, heavy intuition I didn't want to admit was there. My best friend Zhou Yali sat on my couch crunching potato chips and scolded me. "You're too damn nice. Men like that, the second you're nice, they think you're easy to fool." I laughed and changed the subject, but that splinter in my heart dug deeper and deeper. He started taking his phone into the bathroom when he showered. He slept with it tucked under his pillow. One night, I rolled over in my sleep and accidentally brushed against his phone. He jolted awake, grabbed my wrist in a death grip, and demanded, "What are you doing?" The force of it was terrifying. I pulled my hand back and said I was just turning off the lamp. He stared at me for several long seconds before slowly releasing his grip, rolling over and going back to sleep. The next day, he acted like nothing had happened. He made me a bowl of brown sugar poached eggs, said he'd noticed I looked pale and wanted to build up my blood. I ate those eggs, but half my heart went cold. What really tipped me over the edge was a Wednesday night 3 weeks ago. He said he was going to the north side of town for an industry seminar. I happened to be on the south side entertaining clients for dinner. The dinner ended close to 11. My GPS routed me home through the north side. On a strange impulse, I took a detour and saw his company's business van parked outside the seminar hotel from a distance. Someone was in the driver's seat, had bent down looking at a phone. The glow of the screen lit up a profile. It was his subordinate Zhao Manny, 26 years old, new hire in the marketing department. Long wavy hair, 2 dimples when she smiled. His car was parked at the hotel entrance. Zhao Manny was sitting in the driver's seat. At that hour, the seminar had been over for a long time. I didn't stop the car. I didn't call him. I went home, took a shower, lay in bed, and listened to my own heartbeat pounding against my eardrums. I tossed and turned until 1 in the morning when his WeChat message came through. Just wrapped up. Too late to come back. Gonna crash at the hotel tonight. I didn't reply. He came home the next day carrying the lemony scent of hotel body wash. His shirt collar was a fresh new one. He kissed my forehead and said, "You've worked hard, honey." I smiled and took his dirty laundry from him, brought it up to my nose and breathed in the clean scent of laundry detergent. No perfume, but I saw it, right there at the back of his neck near the collar. A small pale pink mark, like something had pressed against it and lingered. I didn't ask. Not because I was afraid. I just wanted to wait a little longer. Wait for him to show me a bigger crack. So I waited. And then tonight came. He said he had to go to the neighboring city to meet a client. One day, one night. In the afternoon, I went grocery shopping. On my way back, I passed by the Jinjiang Hotel. I saw his car parked solid and steady in the outdoor lot, front end facing east. Hanging from the driver's side door handle was a pale pink scrunchie with a bow, the exact same one sitting on Zhao Manny's desk at work. I took out my phone and snapped a photo. Then I walked around to the hotel front desk. I told the young woman on duty, "My husband said he's in a meeting here. I'm dropping something off for him."
His name is Wang Ziyuan.
"Which room?" She checked her computer, gave me a polite smile, and said, "I'm sorry, ma'am. We don't have any guest registered under that name." I smiled, thanked her, and walked out. Back in my own car, I pulled out the dashcam memory card. I had installed the damn thing because he kept saying I drove too aggressively, and it was for insurance against scammers. I slid the card into my phone reader and pulled up the footage from 4 in the afternoon to 8 at night. 4:13 p.m., Zhao Manny got out of the passenger side. She was carrying a paper bag. She walked through the hotel entrance. 5:02 p.m. He got out of the driver's side, locked the car, walked briskly through the same door. 8:21 p.m. The two of them came out one after the other. Zhao Manny got into the passenger seat. He got into the driver's seat. The car didn't move. It sat there until 12:07 in the morning. Engine off. Doors never opened again. I pulled the memory card out and clenched it in my fist. I drove home. At a red light on the way, my phone lit up. He'd sent a WeChat message. "Heading back now. Be home in an hour and a half. Got you a late-night snack. Those rice noodle rolls you love from the place on the west side." I stared at the screen for a long time. The light turned green, and I didn't notice. The car behind me honked twice before I snapped out of it. I didn't reply. When I got home, I didn't turn on the overhead lights. I just clicked on the floor lamp, sank into the couch, and set that memory card down on the coffee table directly facing the front door. The living room heating wasn't on. The chill crept up from the soles of my feet. I pulled my jacket tighter around me and stared at the clock on the wall. The second hand made its rounds. One circle after another. 1:23 a.m. He sent a message. "Honey, you asleep?" I didn't reply. 1:58 a.m. Another one. "Almost there." I still didn't reply. Then at 2:17 in the morning, the front door lock clicked open. He eased off his shoes, quiet and careful, like a cat sneaking food. He hung his coat on the rack. He turned around, and then he saw me sitting there beneath the lamp. His entire body froze, like someone had hit pause. "You're still awake?" His voice cracked, scraped raw from the back of his throat. I didn't look at him. I just watched the clock. And when I finally said it, I surprised even myself. My voice was steady. Steady like I was reading the weather forecast. "How could I be asleep when I saw your car in the Jinjiang hotel parking lot, parked there for 4 hours and 7 minutes?" I nudged the memory card forward, right to the edge of the coffee table. 1 more inch, and it would fall. His Adam's apple bobbed twice. He took half a step forward, then retreated. His feet inside his slippers, his toes curling in on themselves without him noticing. How did that was? His tongue tied itself in knots. His hands flailed in the air, sketching meaningless shapes before landing on the back of his own head. He scrubbed at his hair, hard. "Zhao Manny and a colleague and we went there to meet a client." "The client was staying at the hotel, and you met them in the parking lot?" I lifted my head and looked at him. His lips twitched. His eyes drifted up toward the ceiling, like he was searching for a line that could patch this whole thing back together. The tire got punctured. I called roadside assistance. Waited a long time. "You went into the hotel at 4. Came out at 8. And didn't call for help until midnight?" He went silent. There was nothing left in the room but the ticking of the clock on the wall and his ragged breathing, like someone had him by the throat. I didn't push him to say anything else. I stood up, pulled a document folder out of the coffee table drawer, and set it in front of him. "Tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock. Civil Affairs Bureau." I turned around, walked into the bedroom, shut the door, and locked it. Not a single sound came from the other side. I leaned against the door. My legs suddenly gave out. I slid down the door and onto the floor. My phone buzzed. A WeChat message from Zhou. "So? Did you get it out of him?" I typed 2 words. "It's done." I tossed my phone onto the bed and buried my face in my knees. The tears finally came. 02. I woke up early the next morning. Truth was, I barely slept at all. Before 6, I was already up washing my face. I looked in the mirror and saw the dark bruise-colored shadows under my eyes. My eye sockets were still swollen. I opened the bedroom door. The living room was empty. The document folder was still on the coffee table. He hadn't touched it. The memory card next to it was gone. On the dining table sat a cup of warm milk with a note held underneath it. His handwriting was a rushed scrawl. Xiaodong, let's sit down and really talk. Zhao Manny and I are strictly work colleagues. You've misunderstood. I'll come home early tonight. I'll explain everything. Don't do anything rash. I read it twice. I folded the note neatly, tucked it into my pocket, and left the milk untouched. Before I headed out, I called Zhou Yali. She said, I'm coming to get you. Less than half an hour later, she was downstairs in her little red Honda Fit, window rolled down, shouting up at me, Get in, girl. She dragged me out for dim sum. When the shrimp dumplings came, I ate one. I chewed and chewed, and then my nose started stinging again. She slid the tissue box across the table in front of me. Cry if you need to cry. Don't hold it in. But when you're done crying, we do what needs to be done. I'm with you. I asked her. Was I too impulsive? What if he really is innocent? Innocent. She jabbed a chopstick straight up in the air. Your dash cam caught Zhao Manny getting into his car and going into that hotel, right? It caught the two of them sitting in a parking lot for 4 hours, right? Do you actually believe nothing happened? I said nothing. She pressed on. What about your mother-in-law? Does she know yet? I shook my head. My mother-in-law Sun Xiaolan lived in an old residential complex on the east side of town. I usually visited her every 2 weeks, had dinner on holidays. She was never particularly warm toward me, but she wasn't mean either. She was the classic, my son can do no wrong, type of mother-in-law. If Wang Ziyuan went crying to her, she'd absolutely say, Xiaotong, you're reading too much into this. Zhou Yali chewed her shrimp dumpling and said through a mouthful, Don't tell her yet. Wait until you've got everything figured out. I nodded. At 9, I was at my desk at work. I stared at my computer screen all morning, didn't absorb a single word. My phone rang at lunch. Wang Ziyuan called 3 times. I declined all 3 and sent a WeChat message. We'll talk tonight. Stop calling. He replied with an okay, followed by a string of exclamation points. At 3 in the afternoon, Zhou Yali forwarded me a screenshot. It was from a local community group she was in. Someone had posted a photo. The lobby of the Jinjiang Hotel. Zhao Manny was holding a man's arm, waiting for the elevator. The man's profile, that was Wang Ziyuan. The person who posted it had written, Well, isn't that my classmate's husband? Who's that with him? Zhou Yali sent me a voice message. I saved the screenshot. Don't panic. I didn't reply to her. Just figure out what you're going to say to your husband tonight. I stared at that photo for a long time. I zoomed in on Wang Ziyuan's face, then zoomed back out, then zoomed in again. I confirmed it was him. Zhao Manny was wearing that pale pink knit top. I'd seen it before. She wore it to the company team-building event last month. Wang Ziyuan had casually remarked, That color really suits you. I hadn't thought anything of it at the time. Now, remembering it, my stomach churned. After work, I didn't go home. I sat in the cafe across from my residential complex until 7:30. I waited until he sent a WeChat message saying, I'm back. Then I slowly walked home. When I turned my key in the lock, the living room lights were all on, bright and glaring. He was sitting on the couch, changed into a clean set of loungewear. On the coffee table were 2 cups of hot tea and a box of pastries I'd never seen before. When he saw me come in, he stood up. His face wore that careful, ingratiating, people-pleaser smile. Xiaotong, you're back. You hungry? I bought you some. Don't bother. I changed my shoes, walked over, and sat down across from him. A coffee table between us. Talk. I'm listening. He rubbed his hands together. He let out a sigh first. Then he massaged the bridge of his nose. Like he was acting out some television drama, laying down a long preamble about how stressed he'd been lately, how the company wasn't doing well, how his boss had piled too much on him. Eventually, he circled around to the point. Zhao Manny is new. She doesn't know the business well yet. That day, I took her to the Jinjiang to meet a client. The client didn't show. We waited in the parking lot. And we talked a bit about work. You went into the hotel lobby at 4. Talked about work until 8. The client changed locations. We sat in the lobby lounge for a while. The lobby lounge has security cameras, right? Should we go take a look? He choked. His lips moved, but nothing came out. His voice dropped low. Xiaodong, don't be like this. We've been husband and wife for so many years. Just trust me this once. I stared into his eyes. His gaze flickered, then steadied, like he was fighting to hold it together. His right index finger tapped against his knee. Tap, tap, tap. His nervous tick. I pulled my phone out of my bag, brought up that photo, and turned the screen toward him. His face drained of color in an instant. The lobby lounge? That's waiting for the elevator, isn't it? I heard my own voice. It was so flat. Too flat to be mine. He stared at the screen. His fingers stopped tapping on his knee. The silence stretched so long I thought he might actually confess. Instead, he lifted his head and said that was from last month. She'd had too much to drink that time. I helped her back to her room. I walked her up and came right back down. What about yesterday? Did you walk her to her room yesterday too? Did that take 4 hours? He went silent again. This silence was even longer. Long enough for the steam from the teacups to dissipate completely. Finally, he drew a deep breath, like he'd made some kind of resolution. He leaned forward. Xiaodong, I'll be honest with you. Zhao Manny's been having some family problems lately. She broke up with her boyfriend. She's emotionally unstable. I'm her supervisor. I'm the one who hired her. So, I've been looking out for her a bit more. Yesterday, she said she was feeling desperate. I sat with her and talked for a long time. In the car. That's all it was. Nothing happened. I swear. When he said the word swear, his right hand came up. 3 fingers raised. His eyes finally met mine straight on. I looked at him for a long moment, and then, without meaning to, I smiled. Wang Ziyuan, do you remember the night of your birthday last month? I asked him. He blinked. Yeah, of course. What about it? You said you were at a client dinner. You didn't get home until 2 in the morning. The next day, I was washing your coat and found a small lipstick stain on the inside of the left cuff. You said a client's assistant accidentally brushed against you. I believed you. His expression began to freeze. Last Wednesday, you said you were at a seminar on the north side. I was on the north side that night, and I saw Zhao Manny sitting in your car. You told me you stayed at the hotel that night. I believed you. The day before yesterday, you transferred 5,000 yuan to Zhao Manny. The note said project bonus. But that project doesn't exist in your expense reimbursement system. His lips started trembling. You're asking me whether I trust you? I stood up and looked down at him. I have always trusted you. What did you do with that trust? He shot to his feet, came around the coffee table, and tried to grab my hands. Xiaodong, just let me explain. I can explain all of that. I shook his hands off. Explain what? Explain why you deleted your chat history with her? Explain why you made a secret account to send her goodnight messages? Explain why over these past 3 months you've been coming home later and later and hiding your phone tighter and tighter. He opened his mouth. Not a single word came out. I picked up my bag and walked toward the bedroom. At the door, I turned back and looked at him. Tomorrow, 9 o'clock. Civil Affairs Bureau. Show up or don't. If you don't, I'll file suit. My mom will never agree to this, he shouted after me. His voice was frantic and panicked at the same time. I stood in the bedroom doorway, my back to him. She's your mother, not mine. When I closed the door, I heard the sound of a cup being smashed to pieces on the other side. I leaned against the door and closed my eyes. Tears slid down my cheeks, but the corner of my mouth was pulling upward. I had finally said it. 03. He didn't show up at the Civil Affairs Bureau the next day. I took the morning off and waited outside the doors for 40 minutes. I called him 6 times. 3 of them connected. He declined every single one. Finally, a WeChat message came through. Xiaodong, I have an important meeting today I can't get out of. Let's deal with our stuff after I get through this busy stretch. Just take a few days to calm down first.
Calm down?
I stared at those words. My hand gripping the phone was shaking.
Zhou Yali was right.
He was stalling. He was betting that I didn't have the guts to follow through. Betting that I'd make a fuss for a few days and then cool off. Betting that I'd look at our 3 years of marriage, our year of dating, all those shared memories, and swallow this bitter pill. I couldn't swallow it. Back at the office, I stared at my computer for half an hour. Then I opened a document and started making a timeline. Line by line. 3 months ago, the first time I smelled perfume. 2 months ago, the first time I found a long strand of hair on the passenger seat. 1 month ago, the first time he took his phone into the shower. 3 weeks ago, the first deleted chat history. Last Wednesday, the North Side seminar. The day before yesterday, the Jinjiang hotel parking lot. The list kept growing longer. When I finished, I stared at the screen dense with entries. Something heavy pressed down on my chest, so tight I could barely breathe. I poured myself a glass of water and drank it down.
It helped.
A little. Near the end of the workday, my phone rang. The caller ID read mother-in-law. I hesitated. Then I answered. Xiaodong. Sun Xilan's voice came through the receiver with that particular drawn-out, trailing intonation elderly people have. Xiaoyuan told me. You two had a little fight, huh? AI. Married couples don't hold grudges overnight. He messed up, you yell at him a bit and move on. Don't go throwing around the word divorce. It hurts the feelings so much. She paused. Then she added, Xiaoyuan's always been bad with words since he was little. Doesn't know how to sweet talk. But he has you in his heart. If you're still angry, come over for dinner tonight. Mom will braise some ribs for you. I didn't speak. I held the phone. My knuckles went white. When she realized I wasn't going to respond, her tone softened another degree. Xiaodong, you're a good kid. Mom knows that. Men, well, sometimes they just can't control themselves. Don't take it so personally. If you really divorce him, think about how bad that sounds when it gets around. Your parents' faces won't look too good either. Right?
Mom, I said.
My voice came out steadier than I ever expected. He had an affair. 2 seconds of dead silence on the other end. What affair, no affair. That's all you young people overthinking things. She let out a dry laugh. That Manny girl, I've met her a few times. Very polite. She's just a little close with Xiaoyuan because of work. You're the wife. Why are you competing with some young girl? I gripped my phone. My fingernails dug into my palm. Mom. His car was parked in the hotel lot. He was in that car with her for 4 hours. Well then they must have been talking about work. You're not in sales, you don't understand. In their line of work, there's a lot of client entertaining. The dashcam recorded it. She paused again. Her voice lowered. You installed a dashcam? I did. A rustling sound came through the receiver, like she was switching the phone to the other hand. A few seconds passed. Xiaodong, the most important thing between husband and wife is trust. You're always checking up on him, spying on him. What man can put up with that? The more you act like this, the more he'll want to run the other way. Don't you think that's the truth? I suddenly had the overwhelming urge to laugh. But I didn't. I just said, Mom, I'll come see you tomorrow. We'll talk in person. I hung up and put my head down on my desk. I buried my face in the crook of my arm. A coworker came by and patted my shoulder. Xiaodong, you okay? I lifted my head and smiled at her. I'm fine. Just got something in my eye. It was almost 8 by the time I got home. Wang Ziyuan wasn't there. The living room floor had been swept. The broken cup was gone. The 2 cups of cold tea on the coffee table had been cleared away. He'd left a new note on the coffee table. I'm going to stay at my mom's for a couple days. Eat properly. There's food in the fridge. He'd drawn a little smiley face at the bottom. I crumpled the note into a ball and threw it in the trash. I pulled out my phone and sent Zhou Yali a voice message. Tomorrow come with me to my parents' place. She replied instantly. Deal. I'll pick you up. That night I sat alone in the living room. The TV was on. I had no idea what was playing. My mind kept spinning through the same images over and over. The way his fingers trembled when he put the ring on my finger at our wedding. The night I had a fever, and he stayed up watching over me without closing his eyes. The way he said, Xiaodong, I'll be good to you for the rest of my life. Those images overlapped with a view of his back as he locked his car in the hotel parking lot and strode quickly through the doors. They shattered into pieces. Too many pieces to ever pick up again. I turned off the TV. I turned off the lights. I sat in the pitch darkness for a long time. At 11, my phone lit up. A message from him. Honey, my mom said you want to talk in person. She'll be home tomorrow afternoon. Come over. I didn't reply. I opened my phone's photo gallery and scrolled to a picture taken last winter. We'd gone back to his hometown for New Year's. He was crouched by the old stove helping my mom tend the fire, coughing from the smoke, grinning at the camera, and throwing up a peace sign. In the photo, his eyes were bright, like a little boy's. I stared at that photo for a very long time. Then I pressed delete. My phone popped up a dialog box. Confirm deletion of this photo? I pressed confirm. The photo was gone. I put my phone face down on the coffee table. I got into bed and wrapped the blanket tight around me. Tomorrow, I needed to pull myself together. I needed to have a good long talk with my mother-in-law. 04. The next day at 2 in the afternoon, Zhou Yali drove me to the bottom of my mother-in-law's apartment building on the east side. It was an old complex. No elevator. 6th floor. I climbed all the way up without stopping. I stood outside her door for half a minute before I knocked. Sun Xiulan opened the door. She was wearing an apron. She wiped her hands on it and smiled as she pulled me inside. Xiaodong, you came?
Come in.
The ribs are already cooking. They'll be ready soon. The smell of braised meat filled the apartment. Wang Ziyuan was sitting on the living room couch. When he saw me walk in, he stood up. He forced a smile onto his face. You're here. I didn't acknowledge him. I changed my shoes and sat down at the dining table. Sun Xiulan brought a cup of tea over and sat down across from me. Wang Ziyuan edged over and sat on the edge of the couch nearby. The three of us with the folding dining table between us. The atmosphere was delicate, like a three-way negotiation. Sun Xiulan spoke first. Her tone had that particular quality older people have. Gentle, but leaving no room for refusal. Xiaodong, Mom asked you to come today because I want us to clear the air. Xiao Yuan made a mistake. He admitted it himself. He shouldn't have gotten so close to a female colleague. It made you misunderstand. Mom already scolded him on your behalf. He promised he'll keep proper boundaries from now on.
So, see?
Let's just turn the page on this. Okay. I pulled my phone out of my bag. I opened the photo of the elevator lobby at the Jinjiang Hotel. I pushed the phone across the table in front of Sun Xiulan. Mom, take a look at this first. Sun Xiulan glanced down. The smile on her face stiffened for a moment. Then it came right back. This is just that colleague Xiao Yuan told me about. Young people hanging out together. Nothing so serious. Mom. I cut her off. Your son has been with her more than once. Dashcam footage. Hotel security footage. WeChat transfer records. I have all of it. If you want to see it, I can go through every piece with you right now. The smile on Sun Xiulan's face finally collapsed. The corners of her mouth sagged. She turned her head and shot Wang Ziyuan a glare. Then she turned back to me. Her voice dropped half an octave. Xiaodong, what exactly are you saying? Are you here to dredge up old scores with Mom? I'm not here to dredge up old scores, I said, looking at her. My voice was calm and level. I'm here to tell you that Wang Ziyuan and I are getting divorced. That's final. A dead silence fell over the dining table. Wang Ziyuan shot to his feet. Li Xiaodong, enough. I gave you a way out, and you won't take it. You have to turn this into a whole family catastrophe. Is that it? I'm the one causing the catastrophe? I looked up at him. When you were sitting in that hotel parking lot with Zhao Manny for 4 hours, did you think about family peace? I didn't do anything. I told you, I was just talking to her. Talking? What kind of talking requires deleting your chat history? What kind of talking requires a secret account to send each other goodnight? His face flushed deep red. His lips trembled. He looked like a con man caught red-handed in the act. Sun Shilon raised a hand to stop us. Enough. Both of you stop arguing. She looked at me, let out a long sigh, and changed into a heartfelt, earnest expression. Xiaodong, let me tell you something from the bottom of my heart. Men. Which man doesn't make mistakes? Your father-in-law, when he was young, he messed around too. Mom endured it. Look at us now. Life is good. So you and he was just momentarily confused. His heart is still with this family. If you divorce him, and you find someone else, is that person guaranteed to be better? When I heard those words, the anger inside me suddenly dissolved. When someone shows you all their cards face up, there's nothing left to be angry about. I looked at Sun Shilon. I spoke slowly, deliberately, one word at a time. Mom, the affair, that's his fault. The divorce, that's my choice. You endured. That was your business. I don't want to endure. This is my business. The flesh on Sun Shilon's face twitched. She slapped her chopsticks down on the table. Why are you such a stubborn child? After the divorce, you're a woman. At your age, what kind of man do you think you can still find? When word gets out, where will you put your face? And your parents? I'll talk to my parents myself. I stood up and put my phone back in my bag. I came here today to tell you in person. I'm not asking for permission. I'm giving notice. Wang Ziyuan lunged forward and blocked my path. His eyes were shot through with red veins. Li Xiaodong, don't you push this too far. You think that little bit of evidence you've got means anything? The court's not your personal playground. Go ahead and sue me. I'm not scared. Everyone in my company is watching me. If you blow this up, I'll have a hard time, and so will you. I lifted my head and looked at him. He was a full head taller than me. When we used to fight, one glare from him, and I'd back right down. I'd always end up thinking it was me being unreasonable. But today, looking at his face twisted with rage, I suddenly felt like I was looking at a stranger. Then I'll see you in court. I stepped around him and headed for the door. Sun Shilon shouted behind me. Li Xiaotong, you walk out that door, don't even think about coming back in. I pulled the door open. I looked back at her. Mom, that's your door. Not mine. The door closed behind me. The sound of Wang Ziyuan smashing things echoed through the stairwell. I walked down one step at a time. By the third floor landing, my legs were a little unsteady. I grabbed the railing. Zhou Yali was on her way up. She saw how pale my face was and hooked her arm through mine. What happened? It fell apart, I said. My voice floated, unmoored. She didn't say another word. She dragged me downstairs, shoved me into the passenger seat, started the engine, and floored it out of the residential complex. 2 blocks later, I pulled out my phone and dialed a number. Attorney Wu. It's Li Xiaodong. That matter I consulted you about last time. I've made up my mind. Please help me prepare the divorce petition. I hung up, leaned back against the passenger seat, and let out a long breath. Zhou Yali glanced sideways at me. You really decided? Really decided. She nodded. She turned the music in the car up louder. It was an old song. Renee Lu's Later. Later, I finally learned how to love. I hummed along for a few lines. Tears slipped down from the corners of my eyes. But I didn't wipe them away. I just let the wind dry them. 05. Attorney Wu's full name was Wu Zhenhua. Early 40s. Short hair, round face. He spoke quickly and cleanly, no wasted words. I sent him all my evidence in a compressed file. Dashcam video screenshots, hotel parking lot photos, WeChat transfer record screenshots, a screen recording of Wang Ziyuan deleting his chat history. I'd gone through his phone while he was asleep and recorded it. Plus a photo Zhao Manny had posted on her social media. The background was the window view from a room at the Jinjiang Hotel, captioned, "Working overtime brings its own kind of happiness." Attorney Wu finished reviewing everything, pushed his glasses up, and said, "The evidence is sufficient." The The facts of the extramarital affair are clear. You're in a strong position regarding property division, but you should be mentally prepared. In these kinds of cases, the husband's side usually drags things out. They'll delay as long as they can. I said, let them drag. I'm not afraid of dragging things out. He smiled. Good. People with steady minds have the upper hand. When I walked out of the law firm, a light rain was falling. I stood under the awning waiting for it to stop. My phone buzzed. A message from Wang Ziyuan. A long block of text. The gist was that he wouldn't agree to the divorce. Everything on the outside was a misunderstanding. He wanted me to withdraw the petition. He swore he would draw a clear line with Zhao Manny from now on. He even said he'd take me on a trip to clear our heads. At the end, he added, my mom said she went too far with her words yesterday. She told me to apologize to you. She's getting old. Don't hold it against her. I stared at the screen for a long time. I typed 4 words back. See you in court. After I sent it, I changed his WeChat contact name from Hubby Red Heart to Wang Ziyuan. Then I unpinned him from the top of my chat list. As my fingers swept across the screen, a split second of vertigo hit me. 3 years ago, when I pinned his chat to the top, I had deliberately chosen a red background image. A heart with Mr. Wang written on it. He saw it and laughed at me for being childish. Then, he pinned my chat too and changed my name to Misley Ringed. Now, Misley was taking off the ring. The rain stopped. I got a taxi home. On the way, my mom called. Her voice was cautious, tentative. Xiaodong, your dad told me your mother-in-law's side called over here? Said you're making noise about a divorce. Mom. I leaned against the car window, watching the streetlights flicker past one after another. It's not noise. It's already decided. She was silent for a long time. So long I thought the signal had dropped. Then she said, then, as long as you've thought it through, your dad and I support you. My nose stung. Mom, you're not going to try to talk me out of it? She laughed. A very soft laugh. The kind tinged with a little helplessness. Talk you out of what? You've had your own mind since you were little. When you said you wanted to marry him, I couldn't stop you. Now that you want to leave him, I still can't stop you. Mom just has one rule. As long as you live well, whether it's alone or with someone, Mom will be happy. When the call ended, my throat was so tight it hurt. I told the driver, Sir, could you pull over for a minute? The car stopped at the curb. I crouched down on the sidewalk. The rain had stopped, but the ground hadn't dried yet. The damp rose up in waves. I didn't cry. I just felt the rims of my eyes burning hot. After a few minutes, I stood up, wiped my face, and hailed another cab. When I got home, I gathered every photo of the two of us together and put them all into a cardboard box. Wedding photos, travel photos, birthday photos, photos he'd taken of me eating, photos I'd secretly taken of him sleeping. A whole box full. I shoved the box onto the top shelf of my wardrobe and dusted off my hands. Zhou Yali messaged me. Where'd you put the box? I said, somewhere I can't see it. She said, later, when you look at it again, it won't hurt anymore. I didn't reply, but I knew she was right. At 9 that night, Zhao Manny sent me a WeChat friend request. The note read, Sisterly, there are some things I want to say to your face. Is that okay? I pressed decline. Another request popped up. I really just want to talk. No bad intentions. I declined again. The third time she sent the request, she wrote, Don't you want to know what really happened between Wang Ziyuan and me? I stared at that sentence, hesitated for 5 seconds. Then I pressed accept. She sent a message instantly. Sisterly, are you free this weekend? I'd like to meet with you. Just the two of us. I didn't reply. She sent her phone number, then added, Don't worry, just us. There are some things that, what you heard from him and what you'll hear from me, might not be the same. I stared at that line for a long time. I set my phone down and went to take a shower. As the hot water poured down over my head, I thought about a night 3 months ago. Wang Ziyuan came home from working late. I made him a bowl of noodles. Halfway through eating, his eyes went red. He said, Honey, I will never betray you in this life. I touched his head and laughed at him for talking drunk nonsense. Now, thinking back, he'd put those noodles down after eating only half the bowl. For 3 months, I thought he was just too tired from work to have an appetite. That wasn't it. After my shower, I sent Zhao Manny a reply. Saturday, 2 in the afternoon. The Starbucks near my office. She responded instantly. Okay. I put my phone down and turned off the lights. In the darkness, the ceiling held a faint patch of light reflected from the street lamps outside. I watched that blur of light, and suddenly I remembered something very small. Last year, when he had appendicitis surgery, I stayed at the hospital for 3 full days. I never left his side. When the anesthesia wore off and he opened his eyes, the first thing he said was, "Xiaotong, I dreamed you left." I held his hand and said, "I'm not going anywhere." Now I was leaving. The patch of light on the ceiling wobbled. A cloud passed over it. The room went completely dark. I closed my eyes. Saturday. I was going to see exactly what Zhao Manny had to say to me. 06. At 2 o'clock Saturday afternoon, I walked into the Starbucks right on time. Zhao Manny was already there. She'd taken a seat by the window. A cup of black coffee sat in front of her. When she saw me come in, she stood up and waved. She was wearing a white button-down shirt today. Her ponytail was neat and crisp. She looked like a completely different person from the Zhao Manny at the office, the one with the meticulously applied makeup and the Chanel-style tweed jacket. I walked over and sat down. She smiled. "Sisterly, thank you for agreeing to see me." "You can call me Xiaodong," I said. "Whatever you came to say, just say it directly." She lowered her head. Her fingers fidgeted with the rim of her cup. She stayed quiet for maybe a dozen seconds. Then she lifted her head and looked at me. "Wang Ziyuan and I were together. It's true." I picked up the glass of water in front of me, took a sip and said nothing. "But it's not the way you think." She lowered her head again. "I got together with him because he told me you two had been separated for a long time, that the relationship was broken, that it was just a piece of paper left to sign. He said you didn't love him anymore, and he didn't love you either. But for the sake of both families' reputations, you weren't divorcing yet." I set my water glass down. "When did he tell you this?" "November last year." She bit her lip. "Last November at the company annual party. I drank too much. He drove me home and told me in the car." November. That was nearly half a year ago. Back then he was still bringing me late-night snacks every night. He still watched movies with me on weekends. For my mom's birthday, he specially ordered a big fancy cake. I never detected a single thing out of the ordinary. Zhao Manny studied my face. She seemed to guess what I was thinking. Her voice dropped even lower. When he told me all that, I believed him, because he really was very good to me. Good morning and good night every day. When I worked late, he'd buy me meals. When I had a cold, he went to the pharmacy specially and bought medicine and delivered it to my desk. I always thought he was a divorced single man.
She paused.
When she lifted her eyes to look at me, the rims were faintly red. Until last month, I accidentally saw his phone. I realized your chat was still pinned to the top. Your contact name was still wife. That's when I knew you were never divorced at all. I didn't speak. I just watched her. She sniffed and went on. "I had a huge fight with him. He said he'd handle it. He said he loved you, but what you had was in the past. He said I was the one he truly liked now. He told me to give him time. He said he'd lay everything out with you. And so the two of you just kept on spending 4 hours together in a hotel parking lot?" I cut her off. The color drained from her face for a second. She dropped her head and said quietly, That day he said he wanted to take me somewhere to clear my head. We drove to the Jinjiang area. He said he wanted to hold me. I said no. I told him, "You haven't even told your wife the truth yet." He got angry. He said I didn't trust him. Then we just sat in the car until the middle of the night. We didn't go anywhere. She lifted her head and looked at me directly. "Sisterly Xiaotong, the reason I asked you here today is to say I'm sorry. I had no idea he was the kind of man who plays both sides. Before I came here, I already resigned from the company, and I've blocked him everywhere. I looked at her. I suddenly didn't quite know what to say. She stood up and gave me a slight bow.
I'm sorry.
I really am. She grabbed her bag and hurried out. At the door, her footsteps paused for half a beat, like she wanted to turn back. She didn't. I stayed in my seat. The coffee in front of me had gone ice cold. I hadn't touched it. Was what Zhao Manny said true? I didn't know. But one thing was now absolutely certain. Wang Ziyuan, that man, was no longer worth a single shred of my energy to verify anything about. Whether he lied to me or lied to her, it all proved the same thing. He was rotten to the core. I pulled out my phone. I selected all the messages he'd sent me. All the misunderstanding and wronged, and just calmed down. I deleted them in one batch. Then I sent Attorney Wu a message. One more piece of evidence. Her colleague, a witness, willing to testify in court. Attorney Wu replied with a thumbs-up emoji. I exited the chat and opened my moments. I posted an update. For words. Starting over. From scratch. The attached image was a photo of the sky above my head. Blue sky, white clouds. It was a beautiful day. Less than 3 minutes later, Zhou Yali liked it and commented, "Once you start, don't look back." I smiled, pocketed my phone, and walked out of the cafe. The weekend sunshine draped over my shoulders, warm and soft. I strolled slowly along the street. I passed a flower shop. Clusters of lisianthus sat arranged out front, white petals blending into purple edges. Breathtaking. I stopped and looked at them for a long time. The shop owner leaned her head out. "Miss, buy a bouquet. Fresh arrival today. Very fresh." I smiled, pulled out my phone, and scanned the payment code. 1 bouquet. The white ones. Walking home holding the flowers, I breathed in their faint fragrance. I suddenly felt that the stone pressing on my chest for the past 3 months had lightened. Just a little. At home, I arranged the flowers in a vase. I placed the vase in the very center of the coffee table. Then I opened my laptop and made myself a cup of tea. What should I do next? I typed a line in a document. Then I deleted it. I typed a new line. Step 1. Divorce. Step 2. New job. Step 3. The cursor blinked after step 3 for a very long time. I closed the document.
No rules. Take it slow.
Finish step 1 first.
07.
After I filed the case, Wang Ziyuan finally panicked. First, he called me more than 20 times. I didn't pick up a single one. Then he used his mother's number to call. I still didn't answer. Finally, he came to my office building and ambushed me at the end of the workday. Peak rush hour. People streaming in every direction. He grabbed my arm and wouldn't let go. His face was blotchy red. "Li Xiaodong, do you have to be this absolutely heartless? I've told you 800 goddamn times it was a misunderstanding. That bitch, Zhao Manny, fed you lies, and you just believed her." I yanked my arm free. Colleagues all around us turned their heads to stare. I lowered my voice. "Wang Ziyuan, if you make a scene here, you're the one who's going to look bad." He froze for a second. His grip loosened. His voice went soft. "Xiaodong, I'm begging you. Let's go home and talk this out. Don't do this in public, okay?" I looked at him, and I suddenly found it all very funny. 3 months ago, when he was sitting in a hotel parking lot with another woman for 4 hours, why hadn't the words "go home and talk" ever crossed his mind? I ignored him and walked away. Behind me came the sound of him punching the wall. 2 dull thuds. People around us whispering. Back at my desk, my palms were slick with sweat. I poured myself a glass of water and drank it down. My co-worker Xiao Lu from the next cubicle leaned over and asked quietly, "Xiaodong, you okay? You want me to call security?" I waved her off. "No need. He's already gone." That evening, Sun Xiulan called. This time there was no elder's gentleness. Her voice was sharp as a knife. "Li Xiaodong, you really have to sue him? Do you know that if this lawsuit goes forward, his whole career could be affected? Are you deliberately trying to destroy him?" I put the call on speaker, set my phone on the coffee table, and watered my flowers while I listened. "Mom," I said when I finished watering. I picked up the phone. "He destroyed himself." "You? How can you be so cold-blooded?" 3 years of husband and wife love, and you throw it away like it's nothing? Do you have any conscience at all? Love. I stopped what I was doing. Did he think about love when he was having the affair? Did he think about love when he was lying to me? Did he think about love when he sent you to say all these things to me? Sun Xiaolan choked. She took 2 rough breaths. Her voice suddenly dropped low. Xiaodong, Mom is begging you. Withdraw the lawsuit. Mom will make Xiao Yuan kneel down and apologize to you. If you can't stand the sight of him in the city, Mom will make him transfer to a branch office out of town. You two live apart for a few years. After you've cooled down. Mom. I cut her off. I'm not angry anymore. What? I'm not angry. I leaned back against the couch and looked at the vase of Lisianthus. I just don't want to be married to him anymore. It's really that simple. A very long silence filled the other end of the line. Finally, Sun Xiaolan said, You really do have a hard heart, child. She hung up. I put my phone aside and rubbed my temples. Hard heart? Maybe. But what did I get when my heart was soft?
Deceived.
Brushed off. Treated like a fool for 3 whole months. If being soft-hearted means letting people walk all over you, then this heart is better off staying a little hard. The next day, Attorney Wu asked me to come to his office. He showed me some documents. The opposing counsel contacted me. They want to settle out of court. The suggestion is that the property division can be negotiated. The prerequisite is that you withdraw the lawsuit. I looked at the documents. I thought for a moment. Settlement is fine. On the property division, does he get to dictate the terms? Attorney Wu smiled. Of course not. Under the law, with proof of an extramarital affair, you hold the stronger position. You set the terms. He accepts, we settle. He refuses, we go to trial. I nodded. All right. I'll go home and draft something. For the next few days, numbers kept spinning through my head. Savings. Property.
The car.
His company stock options. My salary over the past few years. The portion of the down payment my parents had helped with. When I finished calculating, I discovered something. Over these 3 years, I'd actually saved quite a bit of money on my own. More than he probably realized. Because although his salary card was with me, my salary card had always been independent. Every month, I quietly tucked away a sum. Never touched it. I always felt that keeping a little private savings as a married woman was my escape route. I never imagined I'd actually have to use it. I sent Attorney Wu a rough proposal. The apartment goes to me.
The car goes to him.
Savings split 50-50. I don't want his stock options. But I'm requesting compensation for emotional distress. Attorney Wu said, This proposal is actually quite generous. I said, I don't want his money. I only want what's fair. I don't want a penny more. The negotiations dragged on for 2 weeks. During that time, Wang Ziyuan tried to see me several more times. Each time, I made sure Zhou Yali was with me. By the 3rd meeting, he'd visibly lost weight. His face was unshaven and haggard. He sat in the cafe with his head down and said, Xiaotong, I know I wronged you. The apartment is yours. The savings are yours. I don't want anything. Just withdraw the lawsuit. Let's part on decent terms. Okay. I looked at his face. For the first time, I felt like this person was so unfamiliar, he could have been a stranger on the street. Fine, I said. Sign. In early October, we went to the Civil Affairs Bureau. The woman working the window was in her 40s. She looked at me. Then she looked at him. She asked, You've thought this through? You don't want to reconsider? I said, I've thought it through. He said, Yeah. When the official stamp came down, I heard a soft click from somewhere next to me. Walking out of the Civil Affairs Bureau, the autumn wind hit me full in the face. Cool and crisp. Wang Ziyuan stood at the bottom of the steps. His back was to me. His shoulders slumped. He seemed to be staring at the traffic on the road across the street. I didn't call out to him. I gripped that green divorce certificate, stuffed it into my bag, turned around, and walked the other way. About 20 steps later, his voice came from behind me. Li Xiaodong. I didn't turn around. I'm sorry, he said. 3 words. They floated over on the wind. Weightless. They landed on the dry autumn air. They didn't make a single ripple. I kept walking. At the corner, I finally pulled out my phone and sent Zhou Yali a message. It's done. She replied with a fireworks emoji. Then another line. Tonight. Our usual spot. Hot pot. My treat. 08. In the first month after the divorce, I redid the whole apartment. I swapped the master bed for the creamy white upholstered headboard I'd always loved but he'd said was too girly. The dark gray curtains came down. Pale green ones went up. I took down all those incomprehensible abstract art prints he'd hung on the walls and replaced them with one of my own photographs, a sunset at the beach. The entire room brightened considerably. When Zhou Yali came to help me settle in, she said, "Now this is your apartment." Before it felt like a standard hotel room. I laughed. Before it was someone else's home. Now it's mine. Once the apartment was in order, I started thinking seriously about work. After news of the divorce got around the office, there was inevitably some gossip. Wang Ziyuan's company had done business with ours before. No one said anything to my face, but occasionally I'd catch a few drifting phrases from the break room. Did you hear about Li Xiaodong from sales?
Divorced. AI men.
I can't count on them. I heard it once or twice. I kept my mouth shut, but it planted the seed. The urge to change jobs. I'd been at my current company for over 5 years. I'd worked my way up from regular specialist to project manager. Not bad, but nothing remarkable either. 5 years ago, I took this job because it was close to Wang Ziyuan's office. Convenient for commuting. That reason no longer applied. I started sending out resumes. I interviewed at a few places. At my third interview, the interviewer was a woman in her 50s.
Her surname was Qian.
She was the boss. After the formal interview wrapped up, she didn't rush me out. She chatted with me casually for a while. I see on your resume you spent over 5 years at your last job. 3 of those years you were married.
She paused.
She smiled. Recently divorced? I froze for a second. Then I nodded. She said, "Don't be nervous. I'm not prying. I've been where you are. I divorced when I was 40. At the time I thought the sky was falling. Later I realized the sky hadn't fallen. I had stood back up on my own. My eyes burned hot. I lowered my head and drank some water. She slid a business card across the desk toward me. Can you start next Monday?
Come work for me.
Salary is 30% higher than your current. The position is business director. You'll lead a small team. I've reviewed your past project case studies. You've got what it takes." I took the card. My fingers trembled slightly. I can. Walking out of that office building, the sunlight hit the glass curtain wall just right. So bright it was almost blinding. I stood on the curb, pulled out my phone, and sent Zhou Yali a voice message. New job, secured. 30% raise. She replied instantly. Background noise sounded like she was in a supermarket.
Ah.
Grilled fish tonight to celebrate. I grinned the whole way home. The new company was called Multimedia, brand strategy and content marketing. The team wasn't huge, about 20 people. The atmosphere was great. I brought 3 project proposals I'd done at my previous job. Boss Qian, everyone called her sister Qian, looked them over and assigned me a new client on the spot. You'll take the lead on this client. Budget solid.
Pick your team.
I want a proposal in 1 month. I took it. That month I worked late every day until 9 or 10. My notebook filled up with dense scribbles of creative ideas. The younger kids on the team were skeptical of this parachuted-in supervisor at first. 2 weeks later, I presented the first draft of the proposal. They all went quiet when they finished reading it. One of the young guys said, "Damn, boss lady, this proposal is brutal." I said, "Brutal is exactly right." The proposal got approved. The client was thrilled. They added budget for the next quarter. At the weekly all-hands meeting, Sister Qian praised me publicly. "Xiaodong's been here 2 months. Our numbers have doubled." Everyone learned from that drive. I sat there, face a little warm, but the feeling in my chest was solid. 3 months after the divorce, I got a text from an unknown number. I opened it. It was from Zhao Manny. "Heard you changed jobs?
Congrats.
I moved to a new city too. Wang Ziyuan came looking for me last month. I didn't see him.
Take care.
I read it twice. I didn't reply. I saved the number in my contacts as former colleague Zhao Manny. Then I clicked into Wang Ziyuan's WeChat profile. He'd changed his photo. A picture of himself standing alone on a beach. His smile was stiff and dry, like someone had propped him up and forced him to pose. I didn't block him. I didn't delete him either. Not because I couldn't let go. Because it wasn't necessary. A person who's already a closed chapter, whether they stay in your contacts or not, makes no difference at all. I kept living my life.
Work.
Meetings. Proposals. Clients. Weekends eating and shopping with Zhou Yali. Occasional visits home to see my parents. My mom no longer nagged me about finding someone new. She'd switched to nagging me about eating properly. Every time I went home, she'd simmer a pot of soup and watch me finish every last drop before she'd let me leave. My dad was a man of few words, but every time I left, he'd stuff a bag of fruit into my tote and say gruffly, "Stop eating takeout all the time." The days passed, neither fast nor slow. One evening I was working late.
Close to 10.
I shut down my computer and stood up. I walked to the window and looked out. Beneath the office tower, the street streamed with cars and buses. The streetlights connected into a river of gold, twisting and stretching toward the distance. I stood at the window. The glass reflected my own silhouette back at me. My short hair had grown out a bit. It fell over my shoulders. The lines of my face were sharper than before. I smiled at that reflection in the glass. She smiled back at me. 09. Once work got busy, the past receded further and further away. About 5 months after the divorce, Into Media landed a major project, a full brand upgrade for a local floral chain. The client's owner was a single woman in her early 30s named Lynn. Short hair, sharp and capable. She spoke and acted with crisp efficiency. After the first alignment meeting, she asked me to stay behind. She said, "Director Lee, I read your competitor analysis. Several points really resonated with me." She flipped open her notebook. It was covered in dense annotations. She pointed to a page. "You wrote, 'Flowers are not just products. They are vessels for emotion.'" I wrote that down. I smiled. "So, what emotional direction do you think our new brand should go?" She thought for a few seconds. She looked up at me. "Starting over." I blinked.
She went on.
"What I want to build isn't just a flower business. I want to build a brand that makes the person receiving the flowers feel, you deserve to start over. Whether it's ending a relationship, changing jobs, moving to a new city, you can send yourself flowers." I looked at her. I suddenly thought of that afternoon months ago. The moment I'd stopped in front of the flower shop. That day I'd bought a bouquet of white lisianthus. I'd put them in a vase. I'd kept them there until every last petal fell. I couldn't bear to throw them away until they were gone. "Boss Lin," I said, "I'm in. This direction, I'm taking it." For the next 2 months, my team and I poured everything into this project. We settled on the brand name, The Wind Rises. The logo was a single petal lifted by a gust of air. I wrote the tagline, "Flowers bloom in their own time. Starting over has its time too." At the pitch presentation, Boss Lin didn't say a word the entire time. She watched our presentation silently. When the last slide faded, she stayed quiet for several long seconds. Then she stood up and started clapping. "Sign the contract," she said. Out in the hallway, the younger kids on my team were quietly celebrating. I stood in the corridor. My phone buzzed. A message from my mom. "Sweetheart, coming home for dinner this weekend? Your dad bought a fish." I replied, "Coming." As I put my phone away, a gust of wind suddenly swept past the window outside. The leaves on the street trees rustled loudly. I stood at the window and watched for a while. A thought hit me. This time last year, I was sitting on the couch in my living room, gripping that dashcam memory card, waiting for Wang Ziyuan to come home. That was only 1 year ago. 1 short year. Now I was sitting in a different building, leading my own team, building a proposal for a brand I genuinely loved. After work, I went back to my own apartment. I arranged a vase of flowers. I made a cup of tea. I watched a movie. I spent the whole evening in quiet peace. No anxious waiting. No guessing games full of fear and doubt. No exhausting scrolls through chat histories. Occasional dinners with Zhou Yali. Calls every other week from my parents asking me to come home. Random messages from Sister Qian saying, Xiaotong, great work. The days were simple, but solid. On the day the project launched, Boss Lin gave me a bouquet. White lisianthus with pale purple baby's breath mixed in. For you, she said, to celebrate our project. And to celebrate your new beginning. I took the bouquet and held it close. I bent my head and breathed in the scent. The fragrance was light, clean, and refreshing. I snapped a photo and posted it to Moments. The caption read, "The wind is rising. Time to fly." Within seconds, the likes and comments flooded in. Zhou Yali. Fly, fly, fly. I'll carry you, Sister Qian. Flying beautifully. My mom. Sweetheart, remember to wear a jacket. Don't catch cold. I stared at that comment from my mom and laughed for a long time. That evening I put the flowers in a vase. I set it in the center of the dining table. Then I opened my laptop and started drafting next quarter's plan. As my fingers tapped the keyboard, I suddenly remembered that living room in the early morning hours. The dim lamplight, the pounding heartbeat, his stammering voice. Back then, I thought the sky was about to collapse. Now, looking back, the sky never fell. What fell away was just a layer of dust covering my eyes. Once the dust was brushed off, the road ahead was perfectly clear.
10.
The project launch exceeded expectations. The brand name, The Wind Rises, and the tagline, Flowers Bloom in Their Own Time. Starting Over Has Its Time too caught a small wave of local buzz. Boss Lin added 2 more seasons to our contract. Sister Qian decided to put me in charge of that client line permanently. My team expanded from 4 to 7. I got so busy my feet barely touched the ground. But the feeling of being needed, it was more solid and real than anything I'd felt in any previous job. At the end of November, I went to an industry salon on the west side of town. When the event ended and I walked out to the parking lot, someone called my name.
Li Xiaotong?
I turned around.
It was Wang Ziyuan.
He was standing next to a black sedan. He wore a camel-colored overcoat. He looked thinner than before. More lines on his face. Faint dark circles hung beneath his eyes. He probably hadn't expected to run into me either. He froze for 2 seconds. Then he pulled a smile onto his face. What a coincidence.
Yeah,
Coincidence, I said. I stood there holding my bag. I had nothing to say to him. He took 2 steps forward, then stopped. Like, he wasn't sure whether he was allowed to come closer. Standing a car's width apart, he rubbed his hands together. You been doing okay? Pretty good, I said. He nodded. He was quiet for a few seconds. Then he said, I heard you changed jobs. Heard you're doing really well.
Yeah.
Another silence. The parking lot light was dim and yellowish. His shadows stretched long across the ground, wavering slightly. He cleared his throat. Xiaotong, Wang Ziyuan. I cut him off. If there's nothing else, I should go. I've got things to do. He opened his mouth. Whatever he was about to say got swallowed back down. Finally, he said, Take care of yourself. You too. I turned and walked toward my car. I opened the door, got in, fastened my seatbelt, started the ignition, and shifted into gear. In the rearview mirror, he stood by his car, watching me the whole time. I didn't look again. I hit the gas and left the parking lot. At a red light on the way, Zhou Yali messaged asking how the salon went. I said it was fine. Ran into Wang Ziyuan. She replied instantly. He didn't hassle you, did he?
No.
Just said hi and left.
Good.
If he ever hassles you, I'm coming after him with a frying pan. I laughed and sent back an emoji. The light turned green. I pressed the accelerator and kept driving. Outside the car window was the familiar city nightscape. Neon lights blinking on and off. People everywhere on the streets. Couples holding hands. Couples pushing baby strollers. A middle-aged woman walking fast with shopping bags in both hands. Everyone walking their own path. Me too. At home I changed into slippers, washed my hands, and went out to the balcony to bring in the laundry. The wind blew through. The shirts on the drying rack fluttered. They carried the clean scent of laundry detergent. I folded the clothes and put them in the wardrobe. As I closed the wardrobe door, my eyes caught the cardboard box on the top shelf. The one full of those old photos. I had never opened it, never thrown it out either. Today, I didn't know why, but I pulled that box down and lifted the lid. In the wedding photo, we were both smiling brilliantly. His arm around my waist, me leaning against his shoulder. The background was a beach sunset. I flipped through a couple. Then I closed the lid. I carried the box downstairs to the trash bins. I stood there hesitating for maybe 3 seconds. Then I put the box in. I went back upstairs, washed my hands, poured myself a glass of water. My phone chimed. A WeChat message from Boss Lin. For next month's new product launch, want to be the main presenter? I think you're a better speaker than me. I replied, sure. Outside the window, the wind picked up. Winter had come later this year than usual, but it had come. I wrapped a blanket around myself and sat on the couch. I turned on the TV and put on a random movie. On the screen, the female lead stood in the rain. She tilted her head back and caught the raindrops. She laughed, unrestrained and joyful. Watching her, I laughed too. Maybe that's just how life is. Some rain falls on you, and all you feel is the cold. But later when you look back, you realize that rain was what woke you up. Once you're awake, you're not afraid anymore. I turned off the TV. I turned off the lights. I stretched out on the couch. On the ceiling, the reflection of the street lamp outside flickered. A soft patch of light wavering. Exactly like that night a year ago. Except this time, I wasn't crying. I closed my eyes. The corner of my mouth curved upward. I fell asleep. Steady and peaceful. The next morning my alarm woke me up. Sunlight squeezed through the gap in the curtains. A golden ribbon of light lay across the floor. I stretched, got up, and made myself a cup of coffee. The aroma of coffee filled the kitchen. I glanced at my phone. Boss Lin had sent the time and location for the launch event. Sister Qian was asking if the afternoon meeting materials were ready. Zhou Yali wanted to know if I was up for trying a new Thai place that just opened over the weekend. I replied to each one. Then I carried my coffee out to the balcony. Downstairs someone was walking their dog. A kid zipped past on a scooter. An old man sat sunning himself by the flower bed. The day moved forward, buzzing and quiet all at once. I took a sip of coffee. I set the cup on the railing. I pulled out my phone and took a photo of the sky. The weather today was beautiful. The blue was pure and transparent. Not a single cloud. I posted to Moments. Good morning. The attached image was that clean, empty blue sky. Within 10 seconds, the likes and comments started popping up, one after another. I smiled and scrolled through a few. I locked my phone and slipped it into my pocket. On my way back inside, I passed the mirror in the entryway. I stopped and looked at myself. The woman in the mirror had short hair brushing her shoulders. Her eyes were clear. The corners of her mouth tilted slightly upward. I nodded at her. She nodded back at me. Then I picked up my bag. I changed my shoes. I pushed open the front door. Outside, the sun was shining. The breeze was gentle. It was the perfect kind of day to step out.